completed his postgrad in New Zealand. He is a member of the Blockhouse Bay Centre, and many people in this room will know him from his involvement and facilitation of the medical camps in Fiji, which he has now been a part of for the last 14 years. Uncle Dinesh is currently the Zone 3 Medical Director. He is a former medical coordinator of New Zealand and trustee of the SSIONZ. I'd like to welcome Uncle Dinesh on stage to give an update about the Medicare activities happening in our region.
My deepest reverence and gratitude to our beloved Bhagwan Shri Sati Sai Baba, who is present everywhere all the time. Respected elders, revered overseas speakers, and my brothers and sisters, Om Shri Sai Ram. Before I start, I would like to thank Brother Murali. Thank you very much for giving me some time at this forum for me to actually talk about the Sai Medicare activities in the Zone 3 region and to express some of my thoughts on the directions for the future for the zone. Thank you very much for that, Brother Murali. I was working in the super specialty 2 weeks ago, and this actually is the picture I got from there, which is the important guiding principles of Satya Sai healthcare for all Sai care activities all over the world. And Swami has very nicely summarized that under these 5 headings. Swami says it's a birthright for every human being, regardless of their caste, creed, or nationality or religion, to have access to decent healthcare anywhere in the world. He talks about healthcare should be provided free of charge for anyone. There should not be any commercialization of healthcare. He talks about how loving care, healthcare should be provided to the patients. The healthcare workers should have hearts full of love. They should be humane in their actions, thoughts, and deeds. He talks about how healthcare should be comprehensive. It is not just treating the mind, not just treating the body, but the mind and the spirit as well. And lastly, he always emphasizes on the preventive effects of the preventive side of healthcare, which is important for most of all the Sai missions as well. Because of time constraints, I'm not going to delve much on what's been happening in the Zone 3, as most of you here have directly taken part in these activities and already know what I'm talking about. One thing I wanted to emphasize was during a video conference this year, I'm sure our center coordinators know this, blood donation, which used to come under the service arm, now should come under the medical arm. So our medical coordinators for New Zealand, Dr. Amrit Lad and Dr. Prashant Haridas, they should have an oversight of activities like that for some very obvious reasons. I won't have time to go into the details of that. And then same with things like medical checkups related to any activity, health promotional activities. It is very wise to have them have the oversight of these activities. You guys are doing a very good job. Continue doing what you're doing, but just let these people know. Now, one of the biggest medical projects that have been carried out by the Australian brothers and sisters and our New Zealand brothers and sisters has been the international medical camps that has been happening in Fiji for the last 14 years. I'll say a few things about that. But before that, medical camps have been happening in Fiji for a long time, a couple of times in the year in different areas. And the same has happened in New Zealand. We had medical camps when I was the chairperson, Dr. Dax Saunders, you were there, and we used to do it every 3 or 4 months in the poor areas of Auckland, Otara. Brother Murali was organizing in North Shore, and Brother Andrew, Kangaroo Forest, I remember that. And it was really a very, very nice, and I think this was actually a example for other countries like America, where they used to ask us, how come we are doing it in a Western country? There was a need at that time. But things have changed. Labour government came and they started PHO actually programs. So GP visits were cheaper, and that's when we actually went on to doing medical camps in poorer countries, especially Fiji. So before I talk about the camps in Fiji, I just want to tell every devotee who is present here, you have been directly involved in the medical camps, and lots of devotees and centers have contributed money to buy drugs so that we can dispense free medications to the patients in Fiji. And it is because of your efforts that this program has been sustained annually for the last 14 years. It has not only been sustained, but it's been growing in numbers. The first camps we had in 2006, we had 26 members took part from New Zealand, And now we have about 100 members, and even then, Brother Krishna has to stop people from joining the camps, putting them on a waiting list for the next year. Doug, I remember you wrote a nice article with the help of Dr. Venkatraman, and then that got our brothers, Dr. Gunu and his team, who actually we invited them to join us in 2007, and after that, we have been doing 2 camps in the year, providing greater coverage for Fiji. And so that is an example of sharing that information in a loving way, how people come to know about it. This is the first camps we did. We can see, I mean, we went to a health center. There are more than 500 patients waiting at 8 o'clock. And this just shows the need for work like that in peripheral areas. We had about 12 stations cramped in 3 small rooms. And that's why we, an Australian group, actually do camps during school holidays, so that you can cater for the different departments with adequate number of rooms in the school. Our Australian brothers and sisters have just returned in August doing a very good job in Lambasa, seeing around 1,000 patients, and it's been a very successful mission. Now, what I wanted to say is that we have had the grace of being able to help in 2 very big international humanitarian missions. And one of the main reasons has been that we have had a very well-oiled machinery through the medical camps, that we can respond to these humanitarian disasters in a very actually effective way. And the 2 main ones have been Philippines and the Vanuatu mission. Philippines, when Brother Ravi Rudra was the president. And I mean, this is a very challenging mission for us, but I can never thank enough the 9 volunteers who took part from New Zealand. Many of you are here. And it was because of your commitment that we managed to actually fly 36 hours to reach Tacloban, and it was really very trying times, and I'm very grateful to our president at the time, and Dr. Palda, who sanctioned this with full faith in Swami, and it was a very, very successful mission. You can read about this in our publication. Vanuatu same, this time we had Brother Albert join from Australia, and we managed to actually save people in the largest village there. The picture on the right hand side is of a boy who saw his mother die in the cyclone in front of him, and then his brother went to save her. He died as well, and he was suffering from a post-traumatic disorder full of mental issues. So over the last 14 years, what we have seen is increasing the number of volunteers who have joined, as I've already talked about. We have diversification in specialties in the diagnostic technology. Swami says you can provide quality healthcare in the very rural areas, and this is what we're trying to actually aspire to. What we have seen, which is amazing, is the increase in proportion of non-Sai devotees who have joined our missions. And I can only say that it's only been possible through the Sai love. And that's why I've emphasized here, it's how important it is for us to espouse the universal principles of service that produces an environment conducive for people of all creeds to take part in. I don't think we should go and actually show Warren Swami's pictures there, but espouse his principles. He says, don't actually advertise me, advertise my message and be good examples. And that probably is the main reason why we in New Zealand, and also I'm sure my Australian colleagues have the same experience, we have more and more non-Sai devotees who take part in this, like bees being attracted to honey. Now, the other important thing that we have found last year, by the grace of God, we have been able to get a transport by means of ship to access inaccessible areas in Fiji, including the islands. And the story is very long, but I won't go through it because of time constraints. But we managed to see about more than 3,000 patients. The mission was just like the first mission we had in 2006. Doug, you were there as well. You made a video of that. You can have a look at it if you want to, but due to time constraints, I won't talk about it. So what have we learned from all our service activities? The first two I want to talk about, our esteemed speakers in the morning have already talked about them, and the people who have been part of the service already understand what I'm saying. Reflecting on the enormity of the Fijian mission, the Philippines mission, and the Vanuatu mission, it just shows that great things can be achieved if intentions are noble, and that only comes from selflessness. And if you have the courage, and that comes from the faith in Swami, and with lots of patience and perseverance, and the theme theme of this year of unity. If we don't have unity, we cannot do big things like this. If we have unity, things happen just like magic. And the other important thing that we have learned during the process, in my opinion, is what is the greatest healthcare need of a country like Fiji and the Pacific Island. And the fact that we should not turn a blind eye to the problem they face. I think the greatest need in Fiji and the Pacific patients is a decent specialist care to improve not only their quantity, the length of years they live, but also to improve the quality of the life even though they live shorter. This is the most important thing that in my opinion, that we face in Fiji. And I'll give you some examples to justify that. Last year we went, before we went to the islands, we saw this patient in Hendy. This is a patient, that looks like a bad infection, but she's got a bad cancer of the breast, walking around for more than a year, I'm sure, being treated or not diagnosed in the proper way. And this patient obviously has advanced cancer. And this we should not be seeing in this day and age. This example, 10 years ago, we saw this patient who had already had advanced cancer and had surgery. Obviously, these are not really picked up in good time. A very good example is one of our Science brother sisters who actually is a 50-year-old teacher who developed some chest pain. She was seen by 2 different doctors in Fiji. She was told nothing was wrong, she had pulled muscle. Before she flew to America for a holiday, she was seen even in the hospital and said everything was good. But she became increasingly well. We got her to come to New Zealand and found that she had advanced stage breast cancer. And just so sad that she succumbed to the cancer only recently. And this is our very close family member in the organization. I saw a Fijian lady who had cancer in the bowel, which was obstructed. Luckily, we got her to have an operation in Suva Hospital. But when she was discharged, she was only given Panadol for pain relief because she was told, although she has limited time to live, she was told that she'll get addiction. And so there's a lot of ignorance about palliation of the patients in Fiji. This is a young girl I saw in Fiji who actually is in Form 5. And she actually stopped going to school because she was fainting of malnutrition. She could not eat and keep food down. And the doctor said in a big hospital that they could not do anything. But she had a very simple, benign problem. Luckily, Swami had got me there in the right time. And I was working with a few doctors from New Zealand in another hospital. And we flew her to that hospital. She had a very small keyhole surgery. And then I saw her 2 weeks later in the Sahib Bar Convention in 2017. And you can see the transformations here. She's back to normal. Otherwise, she would have died of a benign condition. And this is lack of specialist services in the best of the hospitals in Fiji. I'm not going to talk about the Yasi. I've already talked about him before, just for time reasons. I won't talk about another patient who died for no good reason. This is a young Fijian girl who, and there are lots of patients like her, who was so shy of a deformity, a small lump on the right earlobe, and our surgeon, Brother Kevin, actually did a miracle job, and she was cured. I cannot even explain the joy she had experienced from having this removed. And there are thousands of patients like that, and they will be lucky if they actually get attention like that. I'm told that I've only got 5 minutes left. I'm very surprised, but I'll run through them. Moshin, I want to talk about him. He's a burns patient. We managed to get him treatment from another charity mission. This is a patient, Solomon, who is dying from a condition that she shouldn't have died. She was a university graduate, age 25. We had a Saint devotee who had chest pain because he could afford. He had to be moved to a private hospital where he had stent, and his life has been saved. So there is a big gap in specialist medical care in Fiji and other Pacific Islands. This is not a statement, it's a fact. What I have shown you is a tip of the iceberg. For time constraints, I'm not going to able to tell you all the details about it. But the specialist health service in Fiji is unaffordable in private. Only about 5% of the population may be able to afford it. It is basically unavailable in the public hospitals. And simple things like the shortage of oxygen in the hospital. Our Australian group who went in August, they have a small team who go and operate and help their doctors in Mombasa Hospital. They had to stop a surgery on Thursday because they had run out of oxygen and they needed some to be safe for emergencies. This is not because they are poor, it's because of poor management. So benefits for specialist hospital in Fiji, I have written things like ideal seva project for devotees, helps bring Swami's messages. I think it is one of the things which will help unite our organization. If you give devotees tangible tasks, it will stop them from running away after illusory light forms, Mudanali Babas, and all other Babas, because they are idle. They want to do something. We need to use them for long-term tasks. And if you have your own facility, it will be very useful for these people. For time's sake, I'm not going to go through the details of what I propose here, but it's much cheaper to have a specialist come to Fiji and treat a number of patients instead of patients selling their house, selling their land, selling their whole livelihood, who have to fly to India or Australia or New Zealand to get treatment which we take for granted in Australia and New Zealand. The other thing we see in medical camps, as my colleagues will tell you, is that patients come to the camps, they say, I took your referral to the main hospital, but the doctors saw the referral, they didn't even see them, they threw it in the rubbish bin. If you have a facility which is in Fiji, that can be really looked at and followed up comprehensively, as Swami has said. And the other important thing, I'll just probably just go through this. It is also an ideal seva project for the non-health professionals, because if you see in India, in the general hospital and Parathi hospital, the only reason they are functioning so well is not because of the doctors, but because of administrators. You need administrators to run a good IT service, to run all the, so 60 to 70% of the workers are the non-health professionals. And that's the reason why I'm saying the medical health care services is not only for health professionals, it is for every devotee, and they have a lot to contribute to it. Swami talks about sacrifice, cleanliness, godliness, love my patients. He talks about treat them with a lot of positive affirmation. This can only be practiced if you have your own facility, with the workers, the health professionals, with the person from the cleanest to the highest level, have the same actually love in their heart. I am not going to go into this proposal because we'll have another meeting later on today, but we have been given by the SSIONZ organization land that we can actually look at in future to develop and see if we can start a small unit. We don't want something as grand as this, but certainly something as small as this will be a very good idea and a good start. And if we don't do it, we have been looking at this for the last 10 years, but I believe it's time that we might need to actually start acting on it. Again, service of it, I'm not going to talk here, but things like telemedicine, the biggest cost in hospitals is paying the hospital staff. But you can bring specialist service by telemedicine, by teleconferencing. A specialist can be in America and they can give advice through video conference to the patient in the most remotest part of the world. So we have to expand. Yes, the biggest obstacle is funding. But it is going to be a pity that we are contemporaries of our avatar, and we say this is not a possible task. I think if we put our heads together, this is definitely achievable, but again, time constraints are not going to justify it. Last two slides I've got, so please. This is Kulvinder Singh. He is an Oxford graduate, not a health professional, joined our camps on 3 occasions, came through one of the doctors who used to come to our camps as was a surgeon. Unfortunately, he was badly injured in an accident. He went into coma and he was supposed to die. We did a medical mission. He went to Auckland, from where he was transferred to Vancouver. But by miracle, he actually woke up after 4 months. We went to visit him in the hospital there when I was going for a sabbatical in Montreal. And he said to my wife that I'm feeling very sad. And my wife asked him, why are you feeling sad? Kulvinder said, I'm sad because I'm no longer able to do any service work. He did not complain once about the fact that he was such a handsome boy, his whole life is destroyed. His only concern was that he's not able to serve, and he's not even a assigned devotee. This brings tears to my eyes. We assigned devotees have a lot to learn from him, and I have learned a lot from him. And I'll leave the last slide to Swami. Swami says, as in Educare, in every of his charitable activity, should always aim high. If you aim 90%, you'll come closer to it. If you aim low, you'll come very low. And he also talks about what an educated person is. An educated person is one who is compassionate towards humanity. And then the same thing about this last line I've written. Swami Saint, one of the popular slogans from the Vedas, he talks about the fact that immortality is only attained through actions. Progeny is not attained through actions. Progeny or wealth, it is only attained by sacrificing. We heard about supreme sacrifice by Professor this morning, but here we are only asking about small sacrifice of our comforts in our everyday life so they can come closer to the goal of realization. I end my talk here. Thank you very much. Om Shri Sai Ram.